Welcome, thank you for GG, AK. Welcome to Bonk 3, Bonk's Big Adventure. King Drool, for some reason, just continues to be obsessed with taking a portion of the moon for whatever reason. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Outside of Bonk having to try to stop it as usual. So what you're hearing is the CD version. There was a Hue card version and a CD version of various games for just a stereo extra music that you're hearing currently. And with that, we will start in 3, 2, 1, go. For those who have played the 2 PG-16 Bonk games prior, you'll see a lot of enemies and bosses that you've faced in prior games. Stuff that's new to this various game is the candies, which either shrink or make Bonk bigger, which will save him from at least taking a hit. But other than that, they don't have too much practical use otherwise. But there will be some instances where where at the very least they're useful. The great thing about a lot of the stages in the Bonk games is there's plenty of paths, there's various paths you can take. Weird enemy, if it hits the ground, then you're stunned for a couple of seconds. If you're actually on the ground, you will get stunned. More frozen in place, rather. Now the game actually wants you to go to the bottom and swim your way, but there's a mini candy right there which allows you to take a small shortcut. Only because of the very small gap that you have. Now, in the majority of all of these boss fights, King Drool is the one controlling it. As a King Drool doesn't have anything else to do. You get rid of it, you just always see a screen stating that I'll be back. And depending on how many smileys you get, you can access a bonus stage, but while they're just small fun novelties, they're useless for the most part. For these particular tubes, if you don't pick the right one, then you'll just be send somewhere you don't want to go. Now it is actually possible to skip using this small ladder with quite a precise hit off of that enemy, off of that weird plant enemy who thinks you're lunch, but it's very awkward to do. As you can also see, as well as Bonk being able to be being extremely large size, you'll also see various large enemies as well. However, that happened, which they possibly didn't use any of the candies. Some of the enemies are harmless. At least the larger ones. And here's another small usage for a mini bonk. Use the flower here, which allows you to continuously float in the air as long as you don't take a hit to lose it. Just so you can float to the very end. If you didn't have that particular flower, then you have to just kind of walk a bit around. It's very fortunate that Bonk can just scale walls through the usage of its teeth. Must be some very strong teeth to be able to do that. And considering there's no such thing as dentists, however, Bonk is properly being able to take care of its teeth, because it puzzles me. I was hoping not to lose that much health, but that's okay. Yeah. All of the bosses have pretty much one major weak spot, which usually is a very large hitbox. Most of the bosses anyway. So the best thing you can do for that particular boss is either use the platforms to swing up and be able to hit the head, or you can continuously hit the shoulder. While you're waiting for the head hitbox to be available. Oops, I do not want I wanted to stay as high as possible in some areas because in the water, which you probably didn't get a chance to see much of, there's these what I'd like to call smooch fish. And basically, unlike most of the other enemies who just see you as food, if you're swallowed by a smooch fish, then you'll find yourself inside of them, and you actually have to get out. And each one of them has a completely different small maze. I like this particular desert area with a very happy, unlike Mario 3 sun. But soon it gets night. Soon it turns night. Hey, Lucy Jim. Thank you for the good luck. How are you doing today? It was nice not to be hit by those particular enemies while climbing, just so I can stay as mini bonk. But even if you do get hit, there's another mini candy right after that section, because you need it just to make your way through to the end of that section. That's good to know about some of the remakes that they've done. Now you don't want to stand on those spikes for too long because they'll just continuously drain your health. Fortunately, those enemies who think you're a snack, you can, if you mash quick enough, you can get out of the grip before, but you can get out of the grip quicker, and it might be the best if you do, because the longer you're in the grip, the more health they take. Outside of some falling rocks, some scorpions, and some weird undead enemies that you just can't clearly get rid of, as well as some spiked platforms. There's not too much to the pyramids. There is an awkward secret path that I still have yet to find. If you can reach it, you'll gain access to those 6 extra lives very early. This forest, while it has a very awkward hitbox on its head, is a complete joke. You hit it a few times, the pumpkin just gets bigger, practically takes up the whole screen, nothing to it. But the hitbox is still its head. Bonk without ice and volcanic areas. To note, two smaller pieces of meat will grant temporary invincibility or one large one. And also, depending on the path you decide to take, you can gain access to at least two large meats for invincibility in this area. And have the ability to spit fire, at least while you're still in that particular mode. But as soon as you get hit when you're not invincible, then the effect wears off. Now that weird green-looking enemy who follows you around, while he doesn't hurt you at all, he does take away any hard-earned smileys that you have, if you really wanted to go for the bonus stage. Now you would think these enemies would be actively really trying to attempt to stop Bonk, not just play in the snow. Now fortunately, in this particular game, anytime you take a death, he'll just lie on the ground sleeping peacefully and you just press a button and he'll wake up. Now if you were to run out of lives, then you'll just have to start the round over. Now for the majority of this area, you'll want to stay out of the water so that you don't actually have to deal with the smooch fish. That's a good question, Borgo. This console is definitely quite the hidden gem. Now here's an area that I really can't avoid. As long as I stay out of a particular pathway, I can avoid the path of the smooch fish. As long as I don't rush. And any of the smaller piranha plants that you see that just cling to Bonk's head will eventually drain at it if you don't shake them off. Yeah, that's agreed, Dog Developer. That's definitely the major reason. As well as being more accessible in Japan. The Squid Shell has an awkward hitbox. Now, I'll never understand why they decided to put spikes at the very end of the room. Because the ice is not that slippery to the point where you'll easily just slide onto it. Oh, you're very welcome. It's a great game. I would love to see more people play it, as well as the other Bonk games too, along with Airzoink. Now don't forget the advertisements. you love Bonk 3. And Bonk 3 is now available at your local KB toy stores, or wherever fine merchandise is sold. Shameless plug, I know. With the odd platforms that you see, the small ones that are grayed out are the ones that will drop as soon as you step on, if you linger on them for more than a second. You gotta love those enemies on the scooters. As long as you don't jump, they'll jump over you always. Here's another area you have the option of dealing with the lava or just trying to stay as high as possible. Just like the enemy having the freeze effect, you have it as well. You also have to love how hard the enemies try to actually hit Bonk, even as he exits the stage. Now you could actually use those vines to cross the gap of spikes that you see, but it's easier and faster to just take the health loss. Climb up a few waterfalls. Try to avoid as many of the birds as possible. So now we have King Drool controlling a turtle submarine. Spits out a couple of various mini enemies. Yep, and there's the one cycle from the hits underneath, which is good. I have yet to be able to do that in a PV, but if I probably wasn't following it just enough to be able to do it. Now normally, if I was on my last life, I would normally just take a quick game over here just so I can have the lives and health to survive to stage 7. But with enough food, I should be able to last. Oh, I forgot about the huge heart that's down here. Because normally I try to stay at Normally I try to stay as high as possible. And there's another enemy from the past, but we'll see that enemy again later on. Fortunately, the ice skating dinosaur is not much of a threat. The various flowers that you hit utilize have different priorities. Some of them just boost you higher, while others concerning the enemies or containing items. And as far as the ice physics, you actually have to mash the jump button in order to walk on it. At least the slopes. Now the good thing is there's plenty, there's a lot of clouds here for that'll just I can just use for a platform, but I want to be at a certain size. Here we go. Deal with the dino that's in the way. I gain access to a blue heart, which will give me extra health, but I won't gain the extra health until I see enough energy, or unless I see a really big heart. This particular flower comes in handy just so I don't have to utilize the clouds. Oops, oh, that was short-lived. So I don't have to utilize the platforms to reach the sky. See, I need that flower to do it the left so that I can reach the boss. I'm glad I actually made it to the boss with at least the one extra health. So King Drool decides to take a break and sends the lesser enemies instead to be a boss. Now, even when you have the extra health, you don't start off with the health when at the start of a new life. Oh, thank you, FLCL gamer. I know I do apologize. My commentary is terrible. So as you can see, this is where King Drool, who seems to, for whatever reason, have an obsession with the moon, stores it under the sea. This is Bonk 3 for the TurboGrafx 16 Darkinator 64. first of many different areas for the final stage in the game. It starts off with a mini boss rush. Fortunately, you'll only have to fight the first 4 bosses that King Drool controls. So once again, I want to try to stay on the shoulders until the head is exposed, and hopefully be able to continue hitting the main weak spot. But this time, unfortunately, didn't go as well as planned. Now, since I'm on my basically near my last part, and health-wise, if I did game over as of right now, it wouldn't be too bad, because it wouldn't set me back that far. Because until I reach an area a few screens away that does give me access to quite some extra lives, it won't be too bad to deal with the boss rush again. But I usually like to at least have 1 extra life to get through the rest. So my only hope is that after 1 or 2 of these bosses, I'll receive an extra life. At the very least, there's a big heart waiting at the very end of 3 of the 4 repeat boss rush fights. So you don't actually have to go into the next fight with the low amount of health. Here's the first weird boss again. Now, if you're actually underneath that boss and you get stomped, it doesn't actually count as a hit. You'll just be turned into Krabby Bonk. But if you get hit as Krabby Bonk, then you'll just turn back normal. And while you can't actually hit enemies as Crab Bonk, it's not as good as if you were using your normal head attack. And for the last King Drool boss rush fight, you're dealing with the pumpkin again, the pumpkin bird that just seems to grow with every hit. So now that we're done with the boss rush, now we go on to the rest of the stage before finally seeing King Drool. Now my main hope now is to keep as much health as possible until I reach the 2 sections with the extra health that I need and lives. And you can see, because of the candy that makes Bonk very large, the sprite is enormous. It's partially useful, and then it's not so useful. Oh, one other thing I forgot to explain about the difference between the CD and the regular key card version of this game. The CD decided to put a couple of extra doors in various spots where you'll access a bonus game. But it really wanted to encourage the usage of 2 players. Now in this second section, it starts off with ice and some water. Well, actually no, there's no water here, but you'll basically be treated to what could possibly be King Drool's home, maybe. So you have the option of either staying on the ground, or you can just slowly try to fly through the room with this flower that I have on the top of my head. Hey, good morning, Cakes. How are you doing today? Hope you're having a nice weekend so far, as well as everyone else in the chat. Aw, that's unfortunate. We didn't get a chance to see Baby Drool. Now, since I have access to the flower, there's also one just below right here if you needed it. But utilizing it, you'll be able to fly to the ceiling and obtain a couple of extra lives. Okay, that was fortunate, because usually coming out of that, if you're actually not spinning along the way outside of that transport tube, you'll instantly that's one of the only times you'll instantly wind up inside of the smooch fish. Even sometimes if you are in the middle of a spin, you could wind up inside of it as well. But it really depends on the hitbox. So instead of utilizing the head to go to the next section, if you climb up here, you'll find some extra lives and another blue heart to add to your life bar for convenience. Oh, I'm doing okay. Hey, good morning, Vanny Vam. How are you doing today? Hope you're having a nice weekend as well. I'm doing okay, Cakes. I'm glad to hear you're doing alright as well. Auntie Smoochie. Hey, Uber Disco. I actually like that name better. So behind that particular pillar is a hidden candy that for the last time you'll see Mega Bonk. Now, in this particular area, if you wasn't able to utilize Mega Bonk's abilities and the flower, you'll have to go all the way around just to reach this area. That's not that much longer, but it does take up a bit more significant time. But if you're able to keep it, you gain access to a couple of extra lives and a large heart. So now with plenty of health, extra hearts, and plenty of lives, I think we have more than enough to deal with King Drool. So King Drool, who must have got some tips from King Bowser, decided to use a wand to make himself seem mega sized. So we'll be seeing all of the different sizes of King Drool. Mega Drool, Normal Drool, which has a much worse hitbox, probably the worst in the entire game. You'll only know that you've managed to hit King Drool enough when it turns to Mini Drool upon landing. And once Mini Drool has had enough, then as soon as it lands on the other side, it will simply just walk off screen and turn into Super Mega Drool. Even Bonk would be jealous of that. And you only have to repeat the cycle twice, going through all of the different sizes of King Drool. This is the main reason, just because of this weird hitbox, this is the main reason why I want the extra health and the extra life for 2. Just because of how bad my hits are. The time happens as soon as Super King Drool disappears beneath the sea, and that's time. Not really much of an ending to show off for Bonk 3. The chain and statue disappears. It floats up to the moon, to the other half of the moon where it should be. Thank you for the GGs. And other than that, you get credits and basically just saying this is for all you Bonk kids.